This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Princess of Silmar ran like a champion this afternoon. And Strong Mandate is geared down for the last 16th of a mile. Oh, this is a very promising 2-year-old. Mike Smith says go with Royal Delta, and she is going indeed. Will take charge is surging, and it's a photo finish. It's too close to call. Alpha wins the Woodward.
Broadcasting live from the backstretch at Saratoga, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pannell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track. And Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Thursday morning, a wet Thursday morning here live from the Saratoga backstretch. Had plenty of rain overnight in the area, so turf racing has been moved to the main track today. The New York Turf Riders, the opener, that was the steeplechase event, has been moved to Monday. But again, that was a 12:25 post time, so we're still at the regular 1 o'clock post time for the remainder of the races. Coming up a little later on with me will be Mike Welch, at Daily Racing Forum, regular Thursday visit from our guys at the Daily Racing Forum, and then a little later on, Barbara Livingston, also from the Daily Racing Forum, talk a little bit about the great photography she does, not only here at Saratoga, but at racing all around the country. But very happy to be joined now at the top of the show by Terry Finley of West Point Thoroughbreds. Good morning, Terry.
Always a pleasure, Seth.
It is always a pleasure. Happy to have you on board. You've had plenty of action so far in the meet. You've got more action coming up with Commanding Curve in the Travers this weekend, and certainly we'll talk a little bit about that. But before we do it, just want to get a little bit the philosophy of West Point Thoroughbreds. How long have you been in business?
We actually incorporated in 1991, so that's almost 24 years.
Yeah. And again, give us a little bit of the philosophy behind the partnership.
Well, we try to give people a shot to get on the inside of the velvet rope, and we work hard, and we compete at the sales. We buy the vast majority of our horses at the sales. We buy a couple off the racetrack, and we syndicate them individually, and prices, they range for 5% interest from about $10,000 to about $50,000. So we have about 500 clients all over the country, about 65 horses in training, and we love what we do, and I think it shows, and we love to compete, and there are a lot of good partnerships out there, and I think that's a great thing, and I do see an uptick in the people who are looking to get into the business, and I think there are two entities in the business, right? The bettors and the owners that really drive everything. So I'd like to think that we play our part in attracting owners into our great game.
Yeah, you've certainly been one of the more prominent partnership groups over the past 14 or 15 years. And part of that was, let's talk a little bit about one of my favorite horses of yours, Awesome Gem. If you want to get in a partnership, you can get linked up with a better horse than something like that.
Well, I was just at Del Mar, Seth, and we talked about Awesome Gem. He's actually out in Southern California. He's turned out in a big paddock with a cow, so they become buddies. But he won a graded stake as a 9-year-old, which really doesn't happen in American racing. He made almost $3 million and ran 65 times. So and was second like 14 times. So I imagine what he could have been if we would have got a little lucky. But he really showed up every day, and every time he ran, he was a true warrior. And really, I mean, they're the kind of horses that bring a smile to your face. But they're all special. I mean, that the horses are what bring us all to the table, and I'd like to think that we all, or that we think about that every day. The horses are what makes everything go.
Yeah, and talk a little bit also about being a partnership and coming up here to Saratoga. I know a lot of times when you have horses running, I'll stand and be watching a stakes race or one of the races down on that big screen in the bottom floor of the clubhouse. And there are you, Tommy Bellhouse, a bunch of the partners there, and they're having a great time. Talk about the Saratoga experience, which is not only on the front side, but I think owners enjoy the backside up here at Saratoga as well.
Well, I think about the experience, right? I put it on Twitter the other day. I put a hashtag, the toughest place in the world to win a race. Which it is, right? There's no other place on earth in the horse racing business that's tougher. to get to the wire first. But I think that's part of what makes it so special. We've been second 5 times. I think we've run 15 horses, and we're still on the duck. We've got a big weekend, but there's a decent shot we get to Monday morning and we're still on the duck. But so be it. I mean, we're up here and we're very privileged, and we're blessed to be part of a great game. And I'd like to think that we make a difference in our partners' lives, and that's what we do. And I mean, Tommy Bellhouse, we've been together for a long time, and we're partners. He does a great job. And you spend any time around Tom Bellhouse, and you really get a flavor of what the business overall of owning horses is all about, because he's about a really passionate of a person and a guy that I've ever been around. I'm really proud to be, a teammate with him.
Yeah, the enthusiasm wears off. There's no question about it. And again, the partners, when I'm watching them watching a race, it's all about the enthusiasm. And as you say, what makes Saratoga so special is it's tough, and a win up here really means something. Just before we get on to talking about some of your horses that you have coming up, I want to get just a little more in your background. And I don't know whether I ever realized this before, but I pulled up the bio. To come into the horse racing game, a mechanical engineering degree. I found that very interesting, as I spent a couple of years at RPI before I gave up engineering and headed out to the Newhouse School at Syracuse, but I can appreciate getting the engineering degree. And then he also did some business postgraduate work at Harvard.
I did. I just finished up. I finished up a 3-year program, and great people. One thing I took away from Harvard, there's a lot of wealth in the world and a lot of smart people, so it's really competitive. But I got a chance to spend 9 weeks over a 3-year period with CEOs from all over the world, and it was a fascinating experience. And in life you progress, right? And I really think it's helped. And I look at the business overall a little differently. It's about strategy, and it's about growth, and about the future. And look, we're not the only business that has challenges, right? You talk to CEOs that are in other industries, and the one thing that is a guarantee in life in general is that change is coming. So the way we take on that change and we adapt to that change, I think, is going to be key for our business as well as any other industry. So I know one thing. People, they look at a lot of us in the business and they say, you guys are so lucky to be doing something that you're so passionate about. And Tommy and we sat on the golf court today in the rain, and we said, is there any place else that we'd rather be? And we both said, absolutely, positively not. So when you're in that spot, that's a pretty good place to be in.
And before we move on, just talk a little bit about, obviously, folks recognize the tie-in with the name of West Point Thoroughbreds, but talk a little bit about your military service.
Yeah, so I spent 8 years. I went to the military academy. I graduated. I was a second lieutenant, and I spent 8 years in the military. Very proud of being part of the Green Machine, and I continue to have a good number of friends. Actually, a classmate of mine, he was just inducted as the commandant at West Point a week ago. So the guys that I went to school with that are still are now 2-star generals. So it's really neat to see them, and I would think at some point in the near future we're going to see I'm going to see a classmate of mine who's going to be the head of the Army, or the head of the Chief of Staff of the Army, or the Department of Defense. So it's a beautiful thing to see people that are so passionate about the military and about our country.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a brother that retired from the Air Force. My father, World War II vet, so I absolutely appreciate the service. And give us the tie-in to the silks, the very distinctive West Point silks with the star. You always know when a West Point horse is on the track.
Yeah, so our colors are black and gold, and when I first started, I really didn't know this was going to be a life's work and a passion and an incredible business. And we just designed the silks after the black and gold of the Army and the Black Knights. So it's really a lot of people notice it, and something that we're very proud of, and we wear our silks on our shoulders all day long. And again, it's a blessing to have 2 passions kind of combined into one. So
absolutely. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the racing looking forward, but first I wanted to look back, because we talked about Awesome Gem and how much fun that horse had to be for your partners. We have another horse that I think absolutely has to be fun. We've got to get him to the winner's circle in a Grade 1, but if somebody said to me, here's the career you're a potential partnership horse will have, I would say, sign me up for a horse like Twilight Eclipse. And Terry, we're going to just take a look at the stretch run to the Sword Dancer, a race he got caught in last year. This year, he was trying to make up some ground in the stretch. Twilight Eclipse is the number 7. And right here, you have to think, oh, he's got dead aim, and he just doesn't get up there. But again, I was watching you and the partners down watching the clubhouse screen, and just the enthusiasm and the rooting, and just really another great effort and a grade 1 event.
Well, I'll bring up Tommy Bellhouse again. We talked about Twilight Eclipse in the race, and we were both really spent, that night. But if you're spent and you're disappointed, right? But you think about your horses that ran, especially that day. They both ran really well. They tried as hard as they could. They brought their game, and they just weren't good enough. And they were, in this case, we were third best. All the credit to the horses that finished in front of us, but I think you're in a good spot when you know that you left it on the racetrack, and I think in that case we did.
Yeah, I mean, he's just really, as I say, sign me up if this is the kind of syndicate horse I could get, approaching $1 million. He had a world record. He took you to Dubai. This is the kind that when you're putting together a syndicate like you have, you want these kind.
Yeah, he does, and I think the other key thing is he likes out west. We took him out to the Breeders' Cup. He got beat 2.5 lengths, so I'd like to think that he likes it out there. And as we come together for the first Saturday in November, we think we're going to at least be in with a shot.
So is that the schedule similar to last year, Turf Classic and then Breeders' Cup Turf?
I think so. I tell you, one thing he doesn't like is soft turf. So we're in the fall, you're at the mercy of the weather gods, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed that wherever we run for his next start, we get a firm course.
Leave the options open. All right, let's look out on the weekend. We've got the Travers coming up, and Commanding Curve is in there. I saw you and Dallas Stewart at the draw the other night, and Dallas was saying, boy, if we could get another run like the Kentucky Derby, that's what we need. And so I pulled up some video from the Derby back on May 3rd. Commanding Curve will be the number 17 horse, making the big late run to finish second. We were down at the Belmont doing interviews and talked to you, and so we were this was fresh in the memory, and you were talking about what an incredible stretch run this was for you watching again the number 17 Commanding Curve, who you have to think we're live here in the Kentucky Derby. Talk a little bit about this, and now coming up on the weekend as well.
Well, when you're running a Kentucky Derby, you're obviously fixed on your own horse. And when I saw him, I didn't really see California Chrome. So I see us on the outside, and I see we got a good shot to get past all the horses on our left. And I asked myself, is this the feeling one gets when they're about ready to win the Kentucky Derby? And I said, I think it is. And then I looked to the right, and I saw California Chrome. I said, we're not going to win, but we're going to gallop out past them. But it was an incredible experience. I just hope it doesn't take very long to get back there so we have the same type of experience. But, again, all the credit, California Chrome. The vast majority of times that you get beat in a race, you're just not the best horse on that particular day. And I thought we didn't have any excuses, and, he just outran everybody. And, I give him a lot of credit. I hope he comes back as strong as he performed this spring.
Talk a little bit about Travers. How are you feeling? Dallas seemed to think he's coming into the race in good form.
We think he is. It's a tough field, but I think we're in the mix. If he comes with another performance like he gave in the Kentucky Derby, I think we're going to be a factor at the top of the stretch. And if he doesn't, we're not. So it's pretty straightforward, and I think it's an intriguing race overall from top to bottom.
Let me ask the question Tom Durkin was asking everybody at the draw the other night. Cross your horse out. Your horse, Commanding Curve, is not in there. Who do you pick?
Wicked Strong is one, but obviously the three favorites are very tightly bound. But Wicked Strong, we actually have a partner who has a little piece.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading that.
Wicked Strong. He's obviously not on Commanding Curve, but he's been a great partner from us. He's from up in the northwest. His name is Ed Barker, so I'll pull for Ed and the Centennial Gang if we don't get the job done.
Very good. And now also want to pull up some horses that I'm anticipating will be running before the end of the meet for you while we talk. We're going to take a look at the New York Derby back on July 12th, the number 6 Empire Dreams. Really nice state-bred 3-year-old for you guys. He's going to win the New York Derby. I'm anticipating he's coming back in the Albany.
Yes, he is. We just entered him I don't know, about an hour ago. So Johnny V is going to ride him in the Albany, and we think we're going to be a factor in there. I know the Hushin horse is a very talented horse that we were second to in May, but I think we're in with a shot, and he's really such a neat horse, and he's a prototype of a partnership horse. He costs $35,000 at the 2-year-old in training sale. But all the data really look good on him, and he certainly outrun the pedigree and the price. And Patriot Act, we love Patriot Act.
There you go. And again, Empire Dreams. Captain Sirius, of course, the Hushin horse, who will be stepping back into State Bred Company. That makes the Albany a really fun event, and that's part of that State Bred Day on Sunday. So we'll look forward to him. And then I also wanted to bring up one more horse that I'm assuming we'll see before the end of the meet, because I know Ring Weekend was nominated to the Saranac on closing day. We're going to see him, and if so, let's take a look now, going back to the Sir Cat on July 18th. Ring Weekend will be the number 7 horse. The winner in here is number 5 Tourist, but I think you had to feel good on the weekend with Tourist running so well out at Arlington. Kind of flattered maybe the performance here. And Ring Weekend, again, the number 7 horse runs second, which was impressive off of kind of a dud he tossed in down at Monmouth in the Pegasus. So this was a good comeback off of that effort down at Monmouth.
Yeah, it was. It was just a bad day at the office at Monmouth, but sure. I mean, we paid attention to the secretary, and the WinStar colt ran really well against us, and then he replicated that effort out at Arlington. So we're looking for. Is that the closing day or the day before closing?
Oh, might be. Yeah, maybe it's the day before.
Because I thought
it's right at the end of the meet.
I think it's the last stake race that Tom Durkin will ever call.
Yeah, you may
which
be right.
I think is just amazing.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
We're very blessed, and Tom Durkin, as one of the masses, what a great career he's had, and it's been a lot of fun to run in the races that Tom has called. So I give him a lot of credit. And I called him out the other day in the ALS challenge. So I don't know if he's seen that, but he needs to go on a YouTube, because he needs that bucket of ice water over his head, because I did call him out.
Very good. Well, have you been called out yet?
I did. I did it the other day at Dallas's barn, so it was a lot of fun and for a great cause.
Very good. And a couple more I want to mention. Tomorrow in the 5th, you guys have Awesome Vision. What are your thoughts in there?
Well, it's an open race, right? If you look at his page, he's been restricted to New York breds. But, I mean, Bill Mott's horse is a very talented horse. He's been off for almost 18 months. So I think we're in with a shot. We have a rider change. Castellano is on our horse, and he's a hard-trying horse. He's going to show up. If he's good enough, we'll find that out after tomorrow's race.
All right, and you have a maiden going in the opener on Saturday. Second-time starter, 3-alarm fire. Put in a pretty good effort in the career debut, showed some speed, and wound up finishing second back on July 11th. 3-alarm fire in the opener on Saturday.
Yeah, a Pyro colt, very talented colt. I know Todd has a horse in there. Liam's Map can really run, and I'm hearing some good things about some of the others, but I think we're in with a shot there. Albertrani's not if you look at his data, he's not a first-time starter guy, but he ran really well, and we think we're going to put in a big effort to start Drivers' Day.
All right, so it's shaping up to be a fun weekend for the folks at West Point. We'll be watching. Terry, before I let you go, just wanted the hot button issue right now is Lasix. There was a letter that came out a couple of weeks ago. A bunch of horsemen anti-Lasix. There's been a little pushback from other horsemen's groups. What's your position on the Lasix issue?
Well, my position is that I'd like to see some movement. I'd like to see the 2-year-olds. I wouldn't want to rush into going afterwards. My thought is that if we went to Lasix with the 2-year-olds in a time span, we'd be able to really get a good sense if it's a train wreck or not. My sense is that it won't be a train wreck, that if like trainers start to adapt, they'll start to see that we can do this. I think ultimately I would be in favor of getting rid of it overall. But I know one thing, trainers, right, they don't want to have it forced down their throat. I wouldn't be a proponent. But I think we can move to the middle a little bit more than we are now. I don't think that we need to be on two sides of the issue, and I think we can move forward. I think we can start a process, and I think we can start to talk a little bit. I don't think we're talking in some situations, and you can never make any progress if you don't talk.
Very good. All right. Terry Finley from West Point Thoroughbreds. Again, a nice weekend for them. Highlighted, of course, with a shot in the Grade 1 Travers with Commanding Curve, but we talked about some of the others coming up on the weekend a little bit later in the meet. Terry, we appreciate the visit. Good luck on the remainder of the meet, and thanks for the visit.
Always. Thanks, Seth.
Terry Finley. All right, we will take our next break. When we come back, Mike Welch of the Daily Racing Forum, talk a little bit about that Saturday Stakes action right after this.
Face it, most horse racing websites are just too much clutter, too much to navigate through. Next time, log on to CapitalOTB.com. Our newly designed website is easier than ever to use, with all the information the professional horse player needs. CapitalOTB.com.
I got it. Watch me. I got it. Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about. I got a move that tells me what to do. If you don't, brothers and sisters, then you won't know what it's all about.
Sovereign Stable.
Partnerships.
Ownership.
Winning.
Sovereign Stable.
The anticipation.
The excitement.
The thrill.
Top level racing.
Sovereign Stable.
Join us in the morning on the backstretch of Saratoga Racecourse to experience the magic of thoroughbred ownership. Call 866-329-2WIN to meet trainers, jockeys, and watch sovereign horses on the track.
Using CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Simply log on with your username and password from the homepage. 2. Fund your Capital OTB account through our Easy Money, Green Dot, or Visa MasterCard options. And 3. Place your bet on one of our 3 easy-to-navigate wagering platforms, Capital Bet TV, Capital Bet Express, or Capital Bet Pro. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
I'm Jeff Carl. Join me Saturdays and Sundays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the weekend in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekends at 9, only here on the OTB TV network.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on this Thursday morning. As noted before the break, we are happy to be joined now by Mike Welch of the Daily Racing Forum. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Quite a morning, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike's always out here watching the workouts. Were things slimmed out with the rain last night?
Yeah, I mean, this is a clocker's dream, a morning off, basically. Nobody's going to work today. Although I shouldn't say that, because about 15 minutes ago on the training track, Jimmy Jerkins did blow out wicked strong. We knew he had planned it for today. I think the original plan was for the main track. I had heard earlier this morning that he'd canceled those plans, and then I got a panic call from Dave Grenning a few minutes ago saying he's changed his mind. He's going to blow him out on the training track. I jumped in the car, ran over there, caught the last part of it. He worked from the quarter pole out around the turn. I picked him up just inside the eighth pole, watched him go. He just obviously went easy. The track was a mess, but he looked good doing it, and at least Jimmy got his 3/8 blowout in.
Okay, and I'm getting word in my ear. Check your mic and just flip the switch. I don't think you're on there. They were picking you up, but it was through my mic. So just pop the up. There you go. Now we're rolling. They had you, but it was just through my mic. Also wanted to talk, before we talk specifically about some of these Travers workouts. Wise Dan, what's the situation there?
Looks like he's going to the Baru. Not a total surprise. I think trainer Charlie Lepresti finally saw what he wanted to see in his last work. He's been happy with him all the way along in the progression he's made. But there was no doubt to me anyway, from a workout standpoint, that his last work was definitely his best yet. He looked much more like his former self that we'd seen last year. Working on the dirt, you're not going to get the kind of monstrous moves you get over on the turf course, which last year was a lot faster, it seemed, than it is this year. But the big difference is last work than the two before. He looks like he's back on top of his game. I'm sure he'll work again Saturday, and if everything goes well, then he's going to go into the Baruch. But I was a lot happy, at least myself, seeing what I saw last weekend from that big gallop out into the turn and around down the backstretch, and I know Charlie was all smiles back at the barn afterwards.
Yeah, and we'd love to see him up here. Obviously, a two-time Horse of the Year, missed the 4-star Dave, and then really it was not more than a week ago that they were thinking Canada, I guess, and now they've
well, look, that's a $1 million
again.
race. I believe it's a win and you're in. He loves that course. He won up there last year, and it would have given Charlie a little more time. But the negative side of it was that race isn't for a few more weeks. He'd have to go back to Kentucky with him. And this way he could run here, he could run in the Shadwell Mile, and then go into the Breeders' Cup off of those two races. He's doing well, he's here. I know he'd like to run him here, and everything, if it continues to work out like it's working out, we will get to see the two-time Horse of the Year, Wisden, and that's great news for everybody.
Yeah, as I say, we'll keep our fingers crossed because that certainly would be a highlight of the meet. All right, speaking of highlights of the meet, the Grade 1 Travers million and a quarter on the line, mile and a quarter of the distance. We're going to take a look at some of the works and get some of your thoughts on what happened in the morning and how these horses may be coming into the race and just your thoughts on the race overall. First up, we have a little bit of the most recent prior today work of Wicked Strong, so we'll take a look at that one. What are your thoughts on Wicked Strong coming into the race?
Well, you know, going into his last race, he had the blinkers on, he had that last work. He got a little bit tired at the end of that last work last time, and he got a little tired down here too at the end of this work. So since it's no different than his work going in when he won the last race, I wouldn't make that much of it. See the rider urging him a little bit here at the end just to, you know, get him to finish up. You know, neither work was as good as the one he had going into the Belmont, and he ran well in the Belmont, look. But the blinkers have obviously got him a little bit more focused. You know, certainly I think this horse is coming in as good as he went into the Jim Dandy, so obviously one of the major players here. This is a great race. I mean, it's very wide open, not much separating the local horses, and then you bring Bayern in, and that's, of course, that's the $64,000 question, I guess, whether he's going to get a mile and a quarter, because there's no doubt he's loose on the lead. Any pace handicapper's got to go out and play him. I know he ran on a biased kind of strip in Monmouth, got loose on the lead against a faster field. He looks like even easier on the lead here. Just, do you think he'll get a mile and a quarter, and you want to take 2-1 to answer that question?
Yeah, the race has all kinds of intrigue. One of the intriguing things is Toneless, with a lot of people thinking Christophe Clement just kind of used the Jim Dandy as a prep. We have some work from Toneless just the other day. Now, this was over on the Oklahoma, which I guess among you and Mike Vesey, that's more his purview over there. So I don't know whether you had a chance to see this work by Toneless, but again, this was the other day. Doesn't really pull away from the workmate too much, but what are your thoughts on Toneless coming into the race?
But he's holding the workmate off a lot easier here than he had in previous works, according to Mike. And this looks like, to me, his best work since he was training up to the Belmont. I mean, he was sensational there. That was my choice in the Belmont, off what he did, not only in his works before the Belmont, but more of just the way he galloped every day, the way he looked like he was going to the race. Unfortunately, I do not get enough chance to see him over here, but, you know, Mike thinks off of this work that he's going into the race pretty close to the way he went into the Belmont, and obviously that makes him a major contender. I think the break is really key for him. He did not break clean in the Belmont, got that wide trip and still managed to win, did not break clean in the Jim Dandy, did not get a very good trip in there. That definitely compromised his chances. He cannot afford to walk away slow here and get mixed back in the pack or hung out wide again. He obviously, the distance is no problem for him. The trip is everything, I think, for Toneless.
All right, and let's take a look at a work from a horse that really adds some intrigue to the race. That's Mr. Speaker, who clearly is a very, very good turf performer. Won the Belmont Derby last time out, Grade 1 event back on July 5th. Down at Belmont, and was flattered over the weekend when Adelaide, the horse who finished second in the Belmont Derby, won the Secretariat out at Arlington. But again, this is all turf we're talking about. Dirt on Saturday. We're going to look at the workout from Mr. Speaker the other day. What are your thoughts on that one?
He's been training great. He's on the outside here. That's Ragtime on the inside. And you'll just watch coming down the lane, Mr. Speaker's rider just sitting on him, really doing nothing, has him in hand. And I don't know if we're going to show the gallop out, but he galloped out just it's full of run. And this is the second straight work he's done this. Look at his rider, just sitting chilly. The rider on Ragtime's got to go to work on him a little bit, and then when he gallops out, he's going to gallop out away from him. This horse obviously takes to the dirt. He likes the dirt. He's had one dirt race. That was the Holy Bull. He was much closer to the pace than I think anybody expected. That's not his running style. Watch him gallop out here. You see he's still pretty much in hand here, just running away from Ragtime there. I think this horse is going into the race in great form. The distance should be no problem for him. He's going to be a bit of a price, I think, I hope. He might turn out to be the wise guy horse, and what I thought might be 10 or 12 to 1 may wind up 6 to 1. But if you're looking for some value in here, I like the post for him outside. Probably can avoid taking some dirt. So if he doesn't get hung out too wide, this is going to be my sleeper pick in here off of these works, and that's Mr. Speaker.
All right. Any other horses that we should note, maybe having shown a little something in the morning? Some of the horses maybe coming out of the Curlin, or any other notes of interest?
You know, I haven't seen Charge Now work over there, but I'm being told by Mike and Dave Grenning, who's seen him work, that this horse is doing great. So I think you got to keep an eye on him if you're looking for something of a price in there as well.
All right. And the Travers highlights a nice stakes card. Let's talk about a couple of others on the card. I know you have at least a quick comment on the Grade 1 Ballerina, $500,000. It's fillies and mares going 7 furlongs. And this is a fun field. You have Artemis Agritera. You have My Miss Aurelia, who had a comeback effort off a long layup, but this is the 2011 two-year-old filly champ. Hot Stones for our friend Roddy Valente. Comes off of a third place finish in the Shoe V at 1 mile and 1/8. The cutback's interesting there. Willet off of a couple of good efforts coming into this, and of course La Verdad doing a little bit of a clunker last time in the honorable miss.
Yeah, and you can bet that you can go to the bank on the fact that La Verdad will not be taken off the pace this time like she was last time. She took back off our free roll, and that allowed our free roll to get loose on the lead and win that race, and she obviously did not want to be in behind her taking dirt. I am sure as long as she breaks, she's going to be sent to the lead, and I think she's the one to catch in here. In the Ballerina.
All right. And King's Bishop a little earlier on the card. King's Bishop is for three-year-old sprinting. Grade 1 event, $500,000, 7 furlongs the trip. Noble Moon's interesting to me. Maybe had a decent workout on the 18th, but the long layoff obviously a concern. The Big Beast off a couple of nice workouts for Tony Dutrow. Steps up obviously in the stakes company, but boy, that win the other day here earlier in the meet was very interesting. Coup de Grace, obviously a contender coming off the Amsterdam win, and also intriguing, stepping back in distance, Wildcat Red. What were some of your impressions in the morning on these runners?
This is really an intriguing race because, like you said, you got Coup de Grace, who on paper is the obvious horse coming off the big win in the Amsterdam, but you got some horses in here, some new faces that are going to give him all he can handle, but the pace is going to be really quick. CZ drawing on the rail again, unfortunately for Trainer Nick Zito. Going to force his hand. He's showing a lot of speed in the morning. He's got to leave there. He did well to run second in the Amsterdam after dueling through a wicked pace with a 30-1 long shot. But he's got to go here. You got Fast Anna, who's very fast, coming in from Florida. This horse is undefeated. This is obviously a major step. Only 2 starts. He's looked great here in the morning. Training, not only his workouts are fast, but his gallops Tuesday and Wednesday morning here were sensational. He loves it up here, but he's speed. And you can't keep Tony Dutrow in his chair when you ask him about the Big Beast. You talk about a trainer that's as excited. You couldn't be more excited about a horse than Tony is for the Big Beast, and I don't blame him. And this horse is aptly named. He is a big beast. That workout, 2 works back, that 58 and change, was just gorgeous. A perfect work. He's got the perfect post. He's a speed horse, but he's outside the other speed here, so I think they're going to just sit, try to rate him off of Fast Anna and CZ. I think this is the horse to beat. I just think this horse is so talented. I'm going with Big Beast in here. Coup de Grace will benefit from the pace, and I'm hoping our local horse Fast Anna. Wildcat Red, too, turning back to 7/8. He obviously can handle 7/8, but his best races have still been at Gulfstream Park. He ran well in the Haskell. I can't knock his race in the Haskell. His work here, nothing awe-inspiring. It was just an easy 1/2 mile and 49. Pinned down inside, though, it might be a little difficult for him. Of the 3 Florida horses, Fast Anna, CZ, and Wildcat Red, I'd have to like Fast Anna's chances the best, even though he's the least experienced. This horse, he's also a big, good-looking horse, and I think he's got a lot of go-forward potential, whether he wins this race or not, this only being the 3rd start of his career.
What are your thoughts on Noble Moon? Did you see that work? And off the long layup, the cutback in distance, it seems like a tall order.
It is a tall order. I think Leah really, doesn't want to start him back in a race like this, but she has no choice. She's got to get him started. She wants to stretch him out later on. I think he'll run well in here, but to ask him to win or even hit the board in this spot coming off that layoff against these kind of horses is, like you say, a very tall order.
And I just want to touch on a question. As we were looking at Fast Anna, trained by Kathy Ritvo, you're based most of the year down in Florida. What's apprentice Mike Ritvo look like?
Mike has done great. I mean, for a rider that just started about 4 or 5 months ago, he has really progressed leaps and bounds. I think he's going to be a major factor with the Bug at the Gulfstream Winter Meet. He's got a lot of business down there now. He's very athletic. I think he was a high school wrestler. He doesn't have trouble with his weight, which is a good thing, and he's just learning the game quickly, and he should. The breeding is there. I mean, his father was a jockey, and his mother is a trainer, and his uncles are all riders, so I think Michael Ritvo is going to have a big rest of this year and into the winter meet.
And I saw a Twitter picture or someplace social media that he made a sojourn up to your old stomping grounds. He rode at Suffolk for a day a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I mean, his family is all from Boston, so that had to be nice for him. Yeah, he went up there, and I think he won with his only mount. I believe it was for Wesley Ward. And look, he's ridden this horse twice. Tough decision for his mother to make. You know, do you bring an apprentice rider up and throw him into the King's Bishop, or do you go for a veteran rider? She was able to get Johnny V. And, you know, I think it was the right decision, and I'm sure Michael had no problem with it. He's riding down there. He's probably going to be on 8 or 9 horses there Saturday. It was the right move. He'll have plenty of opportunity to ride in races like this, hopefully down the road. So in a race like this with an inexperienced horse, you want an experienced rider, and they got one of the best in Johnny V.
Grade 1 event on Travers Day. It's you know, the butterflies
you don't
are
get the
flying.
you don't get the 7 pounds in here. Maybe if you got the 7 pounds, that'd be different. But on everybody on equal footing, you want to go with the veteran in a race like this.
All right, let's just before we let you go, talk a little bit about tomorrow. The weekend kicks off with the Grade 1 Personal Ensign, and what a nice field in here. $500,000, 9 furlongs. Princess of Silmar, Close Hatches, Bel Galante, Antipathy, 50 Shades of Hay. What are your thoughts in there? Have you seen anything in the morning?
Well, I haven't seen Close Hatches. I mean, most of her works came down at Belmont. She worked once up here in the training track, and Dave Grenning and Mike Vesey were raving about her work. So you know she's coming into this race on top of our game. I think she's the one to beat. Princess of Silmar, some question marks now. Her form is kind of tailing off a little. Look, in the Delaware Handicap, she did not have a good trip at all. She was parked wide early, got too far back off a slow pace. So you could kind of make an excuse for that. Todd Pletcher experimented. He put blinkers on, I think it was August 2nd, and that worked. She was sensational. She was on the bridle, she showed good speed, and she galloped out monstrous, I think 6 furlongs and 12 and change. Last 2 works since then took the blinkers off. I guess I haven't talked to him, just didn't want to do too much. He saw what he needed to see with the blinkers on. I think you're going to see a different Princess of Silmar. I'm sure you're going to see her up there close early with the equipment change. I think it's between those two. Betting value, you know, not this race. You know, there are many more races on that card and Saturday's card for betting value, but from a standpoint of a competitive race with 2 great fillies and mares, it's a great race to watch. Don't miss it.
That's an interesting note, though, because if you look at those workouts underneath that August 2nd, absolutely stands out. Second best of 85 in there. So if that was the one with the blinkers,
it was a huge work. I haven't rated it yet. It's probably going to be an A-, and then. And like I said, Todd was really pleased with what he saw that morning.
All right, and speaking of rating, do have to remind folks that Mike Welch's and Mike Vesey's workout reports are available at the Daily Racing Form. Certainly, they give you an edge up here at the Saratoga meet, so look into that, drf.com. You can find Mike's writing in the hard copy or at the Daily Racing Form website.
We are going to sell a separate Saturdays. We haven't done this all year. I believe we're going to sell a separate, just Travers card. I think it's going to be $10 for the 14-race card. It's going to be enormous. We're starting to work on that now. It's going to take a long time to get those 14 races together, but you can buy that separately along with the weekly DRF clockers.
Excellent. And again, it's a great product. It will give you a little bit of a leg up and a little insight that a lot of the other folks may not have, so you can find some value there. Mike, as always, appreciate the visit.
My pleasure.
All right, we'll take our last break, and when we come, well, actually, there may be 2 more breaks. So next to last break, when we come back, Barbara Livingston from the Daily Racing Forum. We also have Teresa Gennaro to give a little update on the Belmont Child Care Association event that happened last night. All of that after this.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, an amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
The Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back. That's right. The 2014 Capital OTB Handicapping Challenge Series is back, and it's your chance to win thousands in cash and prizes, and a seat at the 2015 Handicapping Championship in Las Vegas. This month's contest is the Labor Day Workout on September 6th. So sign up today, online at capitalotb.com, or stop in at the Clubhouse Racebook.
I'm Jeff Carl. Join me weekdays right here on OTB TV. I'll be reporting from the Saratoga backstretch, and you can catch me later on 10 ABC. I'll give you some spot picks for the next day's racing card.
This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back, and as promised before the break, very happy to be joined by Barbara Livingston, photographer for the Daily Racing Forum. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning, everybody.
Always happy to have you on board, and it's been, a couple of seasons since we had you on.
Yes, it has.
We brought you in for a few different things. We talked with your partner, Ellen Harvey, about Standard Bred Old Friends earlier, so we wanted to talk about that, and we'll touch on that a little bit later, but always like to talk to you during the Saratoga season, because you are one of the myriad of photographers that folks will see out there running around in the paddock, in the winner's circle, in the mornings. Dave Harmon, Skip Dickstein, and all the others, Todd Marks, all the others are out there. And we always like to get one or two of you in just to kind of fill folks in, because you do absolutely great work that we all appreciate. And Barbara, just let's get a little nuts and bolts. What's a day like for a photographer at Saratoga? Take us from when does the alarm ring in the morning?
Well, I'm very grateful that the sun is rising later now. It's about 6:05, much better than 5:30. Not every photographer does this. Very few have to get up before sunrise daily. I do, just to make sure I don't miss something. I work for the Daily Racing Forum, chief photographer for the Daily Racing Forum, so I don't want to miss anything because I was sleeping. So I get up about 45 minutes before sunrise, get to the track 15 minutes before sunrise, whenever that may be, work through till, depending on turf works. If they're turf works, they finish at around 11. If they don't, we're out of here by 10. I run home, transmit. This morning it was rainy. I ran home and transmitted Byron already. Then I come back for the races, for all the races, transmit between races, which means sending pictures into the forum. And then at night I go home and edit more photos. And I study for the next day. Like study what horse I might need photographs of. I study their markings, the trainer, where they might come from, what their training schedule has been, just so that I won't be ill prepared.
And that's a great point too about the nuts and bolts, because you work with your partner Tom Kaiser, and I see him out there taking photographs as well. Also does work for the Daily Racing Forum. He does a lot of the video work for them. Also, I know he's up on the roof with Vesey and Welch daily doing the videos. But give us a little bit of the nuts and bolts of that. Do you sit down with Tom and separate out, okay, during the day you're going to get this, I'm going to get this, and that
Good
kind of
question.
thing?
Yeah, we absolutely do. We don't ever want to not have a photo of something that's important, something that is timely for being a maiden winner of Pletcher's by 12, like a competitive edge. You don't want to miss something interesting, like in the jump race yesterday. The horse threw his rider and then jumped solo, and that was fun. Probably not for the outriders or the people terrified of their horse. but since the horse pulled up fine, everything was fine. But photographically, we don't want to then look on Twitter and see that someone else got that shot and we didn't. And nowadays, that's much more difficult because everyone has this. And everyone can instantly post things. So we work harder than ever to be prepared for everything that might happen that might be of interest or photographically pleasing.
And is that a lot of that the night before study, looking through the past before? I'm sitting there the night before handicapping, but I'm assuming you're standing there looking for what's the story? What's the story in this race?
We absolutely do. Like, say, Tahoe Tigress. I wouldn't necessarily know what she looks like, so I look up that she's a bay. I try to find any photos I have of her from previous races. If not, I might text friends and say, do you have a picture of her? Do you have a yearling picture of her? And then for the big races, we study the head on replays from other weeks to find out, like California Chrome, always finished in the 2 to 3 path. Didn't matter if it's sloppy, fast, or what. It's 2 to 3 path, his home. So it's Zenyatta, the 5 path. So you study that so that you can set up your cameras, your remote cameras on the ground correctly to hopefully catch the horse doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's
and then
absolutely,
it doesn't work.
yeah. And then the best laid plans, of course. And let's jump in and take a look at some of the pictures you've done recently. A couple right here at the top, and the guys can kind of pop these two anytime they want. But you have Cosmic One, and Cosmic One, of course, is the offspring of Zenyatta, Bernardine and Zenyatta, and then Jess's Dream, Curlin and Rachel Alexandra, a couple of much anticipated youngsters. But Cosmic One right out here, is it right behind us here at Clare Court?
Right behind us at Clare Court. He comes out every morning. This morning he actually came out earlier than usual. Pouring rain, he's almost black, so it made for a really neat image because he was so shiny and slick. He sort of looked more like a painting than a horse. And yeah, so John's still taking his time training with him. He hopes he'll get him to the races this year. That's sort of interesting compared to Jess's Dream, who's already out galloping with gusto every morning on the track and has worked many times. It's fun to see the comparative between the two and to try to record that photographically. See Jess's Dream tight against the bit, and meanwhile Cosmic One, you know, dancing under the trees.
And we had both of the shots right there. How much of that, like the shot out here of Cosmic One, how much is serendipity and how much is planned?
Good question. It's all planned, and then the plans change the instant that the trainer does what you don't know they're going to do, or the horse does what you don't know. I try really hard to figure out ahead of time where they're going to be, what backgrounds work correctly, where the pony will be compared to the horse. If the rider will be wearing a nice-looking flak jacket or something silly I don't want to accentuate. There's certain things that go into every shot that I take because I have a mental imbalance, and that's just what I do. I always consider myself a savant. I just focus on the one thing, and I've learned what I don't like, and I try not to repeat it.
I'm going to ask you, esoteric isn't the right word, but a artsy-fartsy question maybe.
Oh, good, I love those.
As somebody, a fellow Newhouse graduate, I graduated with a film degree, so I really was only into film as a student, then transferred over to video. But as a video person, I eventually got to the point where I thought, I look at the world differently because I can look at situations that are common and kind of think, oh, that's a nice shot. And so do you, as a photographer, do you feel you look at the world a little bit differently?
Seth, it's strange. My entire life is that way. First, I don't have vision out of my right eye, except shadows, so I see everything in 2 dimensions. I see like a photo, which I think helps me. I can't really see you right now because you're on my right side, but that's okay. I know what you look like. And but even things like on a sunny day, the blue is reflected off the grass differently. The colors are different depending if it's a clear day, if it's a rainy day. Today my emphasis was realizing the horses are going to be much shinier, slicker than usual. And I noticed little bits of steam, wisps of steam coming off them. And probably because I know that what the resulting photograph will be. So I see the world photographically.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but mundane things can kind of, and here we have Untappable thrown up. And that's another one where I'm imagining you plan Untappable, clearly not running up here, but I'm imagining you make notes of who are the big horses here, and particularly taking pictures for the racing form. This is going to be on your agenda.
Absolutely. And with a horse like Untappable, you remember Rachel's years. You remember she came out second set, 6 a.m. So Untappable is going to do the same. We have the first set, then the second set's the big set often. So you have to do that early in the meet because the sun won't be up by the time she's coming out now. It's just before sunrise now. So you plan according to trainer who brings him out early. Like Baffert usually brings him out later, so you can plan to get his horses later in the meet. In this case, he wasn't there, so Jimmy Barnes brought him out earlier.
And let's pop through a couple other pictures. Speaking of looking at the world differently, we have some horses at sunrise, and then if the guys want to move right along to horses in the morning on the stretch. You know, I say you can look at the world a little bit differently when you're a photographer, as I was looking through cameras with a moving image. But you mundane things can look a little bit differently. But obviously, everything looks a little bit differently up here at Saratoga.
Compared to Aqueduct? Yes. And isn't that a wonderful thing? An aqueduct is a wonderful thing, and every separate place with its oddities and nuances is fantastic. It's like a new palette everywhere you go. Racing is spectacular.
Yeah, I say, as I say, as a person who looked through the camera myself, there would be all kinds of and here up in Saratoga, it's just like everything looks
Clare Court,
or something like
Absolutely.
this. The front stretch in the morning, some fog, horses working out, so plenty to take pictures of. And now we're going to blow through a couple of pictures that also are part of Saratoga and your coverage of Saratoga. Some of the social events. You have D. Wayne Lucas over at the sales. That was fun when he had the the relation to Will Take Charge that they purchased, and this was kind of interesting as you get all the media jumping in, and after that the jockey foot race. So up here at Saratoga, and how much is different here at Saratoga as compared to other tracks, whereas you're covering a lot of these kind of social things as well?
It's very, very true. It's really different. I mean, you really, at Aqueduct, you go more into the nitty-gritty because that's what exists. Yeah. They have those wonderful new murals. You play with those. The caliber of horse is different, so you can play with what you're photographing more. Like, you have no choice when Jess's Dream or Cosmic One is training but to go and get them. At Aqueduct, we've got a pretty good amount of time where you have horses that might not be stars, so you can play with them more and do more with that type of imagery.
Yeah, very
but
good.
I never get tired of Saratoga or Aqueduct or any place else.
And a few more interesting shots. The bucking horse with the groom that you took a picture of. And when the picture comes up, folks will know what I mean. The bucking horse here looks almost like
oh yeah,
it looks almost like anime. It's the muscles on the front and whatnot. It's really an incredible shot.
What's so neat about that is that horse's name is the Big Beast.
Oh, we talked about the Big Beast earlier. It all ties in, baby. There you go.
He actually is a big beast, and the best part was he was coming right toward me, aimed toward me, and I thought, if I wipe out, at least, I always said I don't mind dying, but I want it to be interesting. So there we go. Could have been a great shot, but then I hope he would win a grade 1 at least to justify my death.
I was going to ask if you had a lens here and you're a little away.
No, it's pretty darn close. I got dirt in my camera.
And then on the other side, a little more tranquil, we have some horses walking through trees. That again, here at Saratoga, there is just so much that you can take pictures of.
That's Wicked Strong.
Oh, okay.
Yep, Wicked Strong and Pony Boy Bam Bam accompanying. And that's what's so great about racing. We have Pony Boy's name Bam Bam. Think of that. How many professions have things like that?
Yeah, I said that yesterday when I talked with Gary West. I was talking about why isn't the mainstream media more plugged into and more supportive of the sport? Because there's stories every day at every racetrack.
It's fantastic, yes.
A little bit different subject matter. The last photo we'll show before we move on to another topic. Paul Moran's ashes getting spread the other day in a little ceremony, and that was certainly a nice ceremony for Paul, who was a longtime press box guy. But again, it just goes to show the variety that you have to focus on up here at Saratoga.
Yeah, and that was incredible. That was on Go For One's grave, and that they were given that possibility, that Paul Moran warranted such respect that they would do that. And the people that attended, it was just one of the most moving things I've ever seen. There was a little butterfly that flitted about throughout the entire ceremony that never left despite all the people. And so I have pictures of that. And it's interesting, historically, I try to sort of capture what Red Smith might write about. Even though I know after I die, people will probably look through my images and toss them. But for now, I'm doing my best.
No, I think there is posterity there, believe me. And speaking of posterity and images that are interesting, yesterday or the day before, your Daily Racing Forum blog featured the Backstretch Smiles. And I know you put some of these up on your Facebook page as well, and that's a project of yours. And I'll tell the guys in the control room, we've got 3 of those that they can just kind of sift through while we talk about it. But talk a little bit about this project you've done. It's really intriguing. And again, if people want to see more of these pictures, go to your blog at the Racing Forum.
Absolutely. The backstretch people obviously are what makes the sport work. I was married once and it was to a racetrack groom, and not many people have their groom actually be a groom, so that was sort of fun. But I just saw how hard these people work.
Oh,
they don't get much recognition.
I did. It took me a while to get.
And his name was Guy, and he's a nice guy, so it was really interesting. But anyway, I saw how hard he worked, and I saw how hard other friends worked, from the exercise riders to hot walkers. And generally, many people don't know their name. They never care to know their name. They almost don't look them in the eyes. They're almost non-entities. But they're taking care of these animals, that they're protecting them, whose value could be anything from 16,000 to 10 million. And the people just want to be noticed. And there was a quote Robin Williams did in a movie where he actually was a psychotic photo lab manager. But he said, if there's anything that these pictures tell future generations, it is this: I existed. I was young, I was happy, and someone cared enough about me to take my picture.
Nice.
And I just found that when I would take a picture of someone I don't know, name Juan, name whatever, and stick it on Facebook, their friends would tag them, up would come a line of ha 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 ha. It would be sent on to their mothers in Brazil, it would be sent on to France. Everyone wants to be noticed, everyone wants to feel what they do is valuable. So I started taking pictures of people smiling. I just wrote on Facebook, said, if you smile, I'll take your picture, it'll go on Facebook. And this morning, pouring rain, probably 40 people smiled at the camera and said, Saratoga smile, Saratoga smile. And it's for no purpose other than to just let people see how happy people are at the track and to record them and record what's going on here every morning.
And that's part of what I appreciate about your work and some of the other photographers over on the front side as well. It's not just the races, it's not just the winner's circle. There is so much more to Saratoga, and you guys capture it and capture it for posterity, which is appreciated.
Yes.
Barbara, we only got about 30 seconds before we're going to take our last break, but I did want to once again just give a little promo to Standardbred Old Friends. As I say, when the book came out, we had your partner Ellen Harvey on to talk a little bit about it. But just fill us in once again on the project.
I did 2 older books called Old Friends and More Old Friends, and it was senior thoroughbreds, 20 or over, of accomplishment, to show that they were still loved, they were still productive, that someone still cared enough to not have them disappear, fade from view. So we went and did that with Standardbreds. A horse in the cover is Mac Lobel, one of the few I'd actually heard of ahead of time, one of the greatest Standardbreds of all time, living age 30 in Sweden and having a ball. And I should look that dappled when I'm that age.
And you mentioned in Sweden, when we talked to Ellen, I thought, that was a good gig. It
was a very quick thing. We got there and back in 3 days because I was between Belmont and Saratoga, and I said, Ellen, I don't have time. She said, we could do it in 3 days. We got a driver named Lars. We did it. I still wonder if it was true, except for the photos.
Driver named Lars. That's
How
kind of
great was that?
stereotypical, right?
Just a bit.
Yeah, very good. All right. Barbara, we absolutely appreciate the visit. You can see Barbara's work, dailyracingforum.com, the hard copy, you tweet, Facebook, and whatnot. But we wanted to have you over here just to, again, talk a little bit about the nuts and bolts and whatnot. All right, we're going to have one more break. When we come back, Teresa DeGennaro jump in and give us a little recap of the Belmont Child Care Association event last night and some of the other events coming up this week. Stay tuned. Welcome back. A couple of minutes left, but we did want to take a few minutes just to give you a little update on some of the events that are coming up, but also recap one. The Belmont Child Care Association, their annual event that's held up here at Saratoga was last night. Teresa DeGennaro was there, and we'll get a little recap. How was it?
It was terrific. I mean, I'm biased. I'm on the board of the Belmont Child Care Association. It's an organization I believe in, but I think it's the most fun party of the summer. It's low-key. You can wear jeans, and everybody turns up. Owners, a dozen jockeys, close to that number of trainers who come out, and they don't just sit there and enjoy. They get up, they bid spot. Todd Pletcher is the assistant to Wayne Lucas and the auctioneer. I mean, they put their time and their money to making sure the children of the backstretch are supported. So it was great.
And last night honored Ramon Dominguez and his wife. And
his wife Sharon, who have been longtime supporters. Sharon actually spoke, said that when they first moved up here, they didn't know anybody. You know, they'd be odd working hours, and that they sent their boys to the Belmont Child Care Association because they had so much confidence that the boys would be well taken care of there. So that's a huge vote of confidence for that organization.
And just quickly remind people what the organization does.
Sure, it's located on the backstretch at Belmont Park, offers low-cost child care and early childhood education for children of backstretch workers, open every single day of the year, Christmas, Easter, holidays, at 5 o'clock in the morning. And if you've ever looked for, a babysitter for your kids, relatively inexpensive child care at 5 o'clock in the morning is hard to come by.
And it really is a great organization. They got the annual Christmas gift giving thing for the backstretch workers. The kids of the backstretch workers, will remind people about that as we get closer. But obviously, if you didn't get a chance to go to the event last night, but it is a great organization. If you'd like to donate, they have the Belmont Child Care Association website, and there's a donation link right on there. So again, that was last night, but there's some more events coming up on the week. What should folks be looking for?
Interesting thing going on at the Racing Museum this weekend. There's going to be a Secretariat double feature film night, and Ron Turcotte will be in attendance.
Nice.
Yeah, and so it's 2 movies. One is called Secretary's jockey Ron Turcotte. The other is called Penny in Red. It's about, obviously, it's about Penny Chenery.
Yeah.
You can buy a VIP thing, and so you can go beforehand and get meet Ron Turcotte, get his autograph, or you can just show up at 7 o'clock for the movie. Information is both on the museum website and at brooklynbackstretch.com and the This Week at Saratoga Post. But that's this weekend, and it's a pretty good gig, a double feature.
Anything else we should know about?
Something interesting new coming up here on Sunday. It's racing related, but it's the first Saratoga New York Bred Showcase Day. So there's going to be a ton of New York bred stuff going on. Also, on Sunday in the Saratoga Pavilion is the Taste New York Festival. So there's food and crafts and all kinds of products made by New York State folks. Today over there is the Taste New York wine tasting in the Saratoga Pavilion from 11 to 4 as well.
We should push that pavilion a little bit more too. That's been a new addition
It's
this
a great
year, and
thing.
they've done the Taste in New York events, and they've also had the Heritage Series over there. Are those Thursdays? I think
they are Wednesdays, and then one next week is the last one, obviously, and it features the culture and history of Saratoga Springs.
Oh, nice. There we go. So you got to show up. It's all local. All right, Teresa, we absolutely appreciate the visit. And again, if you want to keep up with weekly events, you can go to capitalotv.com, which then links to Teresa's Brooklyn Backstretch blog. So you can go there directly or go through Capital OTV every week and find out what all the events are here at the track and around town. All right, that's going to wrap things up for Racing Across America for this Thursday morning. Again, the steeplechase race scheduled for 12:25 was postponed until Monday because of the inclement weather last night. So first post is at 1 o'clock. All the turf races have been moved to the main track, but should still be a fun day of racing, and certainly we have a fun weekend ahead. All right, that wraps things up. Again, tune back in tomorrow morning for more Racing Across America at 10 a.m. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from 10 to 11. Enjoy the races. Cash a few tickets. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Racing Across America is brought to you by Pannell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track. And Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.